Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. As an update is due very soon indeed from the CDL on the state of the Prime Classic, Scump has revealed exactly why he was so frustrated after OpTic's defeat at Major 2, maybe implying the passion on this year's squad is far different to previous iterations of the team. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, this from Hicksy, I don't understand what exactly is going on here. He's playing, he's playing pubs or whatever, and for some reason, like, he's not got the wall hacks on, but the game is just giving him free wall hacks. But it's interesting, because not everyone is, like, he's not getting this on everyone. But, it's like when you call in a score streak or whatever, you can sometimes see these outlines on a glide bomb or something. Now, for some reason, he's getting those when he's just running around the map, so we can just see these lads through the wall. So I don't know how this is even happening, but, you can see he's not getting them on everyone, but, for some people, he just gets it. Okay, yeah, he calls in the glide bomb, I guess, so it's a glide bomb glitch, I suppose. He calls it in, and then after the fact, he gets to see people anyway. So, yeah, I have no idea how this is even happening, but, yeah, apparently this is even, well, if this is a possibility in this public match game, why would this not necessarily be a possibility in a CDL game? So, of course, the ideal world, this wouldn't even be an issue, but, seemingly, pro players could potentially get hacks in CDL lobbies without even actually having the wall hacks downloaded. So, I mean, yeah, I don't even know if he dies, whether this goes away, maybe it probably does, but, yeah, still, a glitch like this, even if it happens only once in, like, 1,000 or, you know, however many thousand lives, like, it's still something that could happen, I suppose, in a proper game, and this is hardpoint as well, so I don't really know what's going on here. You really can't make up some of these things you see in Vanguard, right? And there's been plenty of cheating discussions the last few days. This is also from Fire40. League play kids are better than people actually competing. This stuff is stupid, right? That's the thing. A lot of, I think, pro players or like top amateurs have been finding that some of these kids you play in league play are just, way better than maybe they should be. Are there anything dodgy going on? We've certainly seen in the last few days, there's definitely some dodgy kids on the rank play leaderboards. There's no doubt about it. That's PC Call of Duty nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, with no anti-cheat. It's tough stuff, but, you're kind of hoping that these guys are just getting the Hicksy glitch as opposed to blatantly downloading the wall hacks every single game, but honestly at this point you cannot put it past them. This then, just to mention real quick, because we've talked for quite some time now about, okay, when is this community update going to happen? So far this season I think they've done a couple of community updates. They've generally been before the majors, but we didn't get one for Major 2. I believe they said there was going to be one after Major 2. Now, well, I imagine it's coming up relatively soon indeed. We're hoping for some sort of update with regard to, well, what is the Prime Classic going to be? Where is it going to be? Like, what's the format going to be? Like, it's on May the 5th. It's relatively soon. All the pro teams are going to be there with the 4 best amateur teams, but yet we still, for some reason, know absolutely nothing really about what's going on, apart from some rumours that have been put on the COD Gamepedia site, and we'll talk in a few minutes' time here about potentially what the pools might look like, at least present rumours for that. But Spinner Spence says next week this is happening, so I guess some updates on various topics, but yeah, Pro-Am format type stuff, I don't really know what they're going to talk about. But yeah, this coming week, you can imagine they're going to talk a fair bit about this. There's going to be some updates about time, to be perfectly honest, and I wonder if they'll address any of the kind of formatting concerns in the fact that the first 2 majors are very closely, well, put together. Not the pros have kind of been like, okay, why do we have all this time off before the Pro-Am and then, Major 3 qualifiers, then there's a more bit of break after Major 3 qualifiers. Bit of a strange one, to be honest. Imagine that's what they're going to talk about over the coming days. This is also just to mention, because Sky's tweeted this out, which, well, very similar to what Arcitys tweeted out a couple of days ago, where he said, Mr. Cellium stole my role. Now, interestingly enough, actually, because Arcitys has kind of been considered the main AR on FaZe. Now, Cellium's going to, I guess, take that handle, and Arcitys is going to be the flex when they need someone else to put out an MB40. But Sky's, if anything, has kind of been that guy already for the Florida Mutineers, right? Like, Dave Paddy, if anything, has kind of been their main AR, as in he more often than not has the main assault rifle, the auto, in his hands, and that Skies is actually the one that can use the MP40 on maps like, Bocage, for example. So the question is, if you tweet, this got deleted eventually, but so I was wondering, like, Skies technically has not really been the main, he's basically been their flex player, and Dave Paddy's been the main, so are they now swapping that around, and Skies is going to go to the main officially, even though throughout his career he's generally been pretty good when he's had to pick up an SMG, despite being the main ER for a lot of teams he's been on. I don't really understand what's going on here, you guys can decipher in the comment section below, but yeah, Mr. Statty Paddy I thought was pretty funny, right, because that's kind of a meme that's been going around lately, about Dave Paddy having some pretty good stats, but in fairness, the team did pretty well at Major 2, right? They came top 4, phenomenal result for them, and of course the OpTic guys were talking about Major 2 on the podcast a couple of days ago, and actually it came out last night. Now, Scump was talking about this, I thought it was really interesting actually what Scump had to say. He had a few words really on the 2 series they lost. They of course beat Minnesota, they beat Los Angeles Thieves in the losers brackets. The first round they lost to Seattle in that, kind of interesting situation with the vetoes. He goes on to talk about it in some detail, right, that okay, they basically trolled the vetoes. That probably got in their heads to some degree when they knew the vetoes that were selected in that series weren't the ones that the players really wanted. That was what Rambo and Senna decided to do, but the communication wasn't there great between the players and the coaching staff, therefore they kind of maybe got in their own heads to some degree. But it was the Florida series, of course, that they lost, the kind of, the spawn that threw them off in the game 1, that Scump says they realized about half a second too late to actually react to and make it work. But yeah, Scump's kind of explaining his frustrations on the matter in that situation, why it was so annoying to him. Like, he was just basically raging behind the scenes. Something that we haven't really seen from Scump. Of course, we've seen these kind of frustrating faces from Scump after he goes out of champs the last couple of years. But the passion that Scump is kind of explaining that he has right here, that he still has, of course, that part of it is induced by the fact that the game kind of screwed them over in that sense. We'll look at that once again here in a second. But mainly due to the fact that even the last couple of years, when Scump's lost, he's generally been thinking, okay, you know, well played to the other team, whatever, GG's, we go again next time, I suppose. But this time there was seemingly much more passion on display from Scump after this defeat than there was before. Maybe because he just thinks the team is so much more competitive this year, or maybe they just have such a greater drive to win than they have the last couple.
You know what I mean?
So let's get to the bottom of it.
All right, yeah. So like I said, this was the first time I've nerd raged off stage. Like whenever I lose, I'm usually like, oh, they just played good, whatever. No, not this time. I'm walking down like the stairs backstage, and I'm just like just raging. I'm like looking at like backstage people, like, you see that? Did you see how we lost?
The guy with like the clipboard. He's like, I don't.
I'm walking past Asim. I'm like, "Do you see that?" He's like, "Yeah, you got bull, bro." I'm like, good luck, dude. I was raging.
Wait, what happened?
Spawn.
It was just a loss to
horrible
Florida
against Florida, and people are like, "That's not the reason you lost. You lost 2 other maps."
I would have read that Spawn. So I'm saying,
like, dude,
I've been like, it's a little fishy. Turn around.
Well, no, we noticed it like half a second too late. Like, Brandon was like, wrong spawns, and I was like, what?
Probably should have panicked.
I like was pushing out their side to like cut. Dude, I lost so much composure.
Yeah,
it was bad.
What about the Seattle series?
We trolled vetoes.
Interesting.
We ego challenge.
So it's on Troy and Rambo for that series.
I mean, we trolled vetoes. Like, everyone knows we trolled vetoes. We played like
what do you mean trolled vetoes?
We played our like best maps and their best maps, but like they just had
instead
a better
of playing
day.
like their work.
Yeah.
Why would you guys do that?
It was
is it because the coaches want to be tipped for something?
No. We just
You're like, no, we're playing chess. We're playing chess.
No,
we all talked about it.
They all talked about it. Yeah, it wasn't all on Rambo.
Yeah, we had an off major, you know.
No, I got vetoes. Trust you guys can stay here. I'll be back.
It was bound to happen, and back to the drawing board.
So these were the vetoes. If you guys aren't familiar with this story, the fact that they played a Bacage hardpoint, a Tuscan control as well, basically 2 of the maps that Seattle are the best on actually. So what's kind of interesting, they talked about basically trolling the vetoes. There's been a bit of talk about the last few weeks, but mainly it was about the whole passion idea, right? And of course, this was the game 1 where OpTic break into the hardpoints. Number 8, number 6, number 5, and number 7 all spawn behind them. And he reckons they realized about half a second too late that these rogue spawns had come into play. Doesn't really make sense, of course, that Shotzi's spawning right here, number 3, and for some reason they're still going to spawn behind him. But sometimes that's how Call of Duty Vanguard works. They realized it's slightly too late, but I thought it was quite interesting, right? That Scump, of course, goes on to lose that series. They lose to Florida, and still, as soon as the series finishes, he's raging behind the scenes about the spawn in game 1 that kind of cost them the game. Whereas the last couple of years, when they've lost games, of course, like in the online era or whatever, or even like last year on OpTic Chicago, it felt like when they lost, it was kind of like a resigned defeat. It was like, okay, yeah, we lost again, GG's to the other team, like they played well or whatever. Like, frustrating as it might be, it's kind of GG's. Like this kind of rage, as he describes it, that he hasn't done in a very long time, probably shows that this year's OpTic team is just different to the previous ones, right? Of course, we talked about just a few days ago that a lot of people think that maybe Shotzi and Illy have kind of brought that passion back to this OpTic team that they were maybe lacking the last couple of years. They've brought that will to win, the drive, the kind of young, hungry mentality that these guys have on the roster, which is kind of infecting Scump with that same energy once again that maybe he's kind of lost for the last couple of years. Like OpTic Chicago, they didn't really seem like a particularly passionate team, if you know what I'm saying, right? Like they were a good squad, they were a solid team, but like when they lost, they weren't getting incredibly angry about it, right? Which is a good thing, I suppose. You want to have that passion on the team. Like of course the same tweet that Shotzi does here, passion with the full stop. Scump did a few years ago. Illy's done plenty of these as well, and this is seemingly maybe what Scump's kind of getting back to, it seems, this year. Like this level of passion from the Scumper jumper, which we haven't really maybe seen in his kind of competitive persona for the last couple of years, when it's when it's been a little bit of a difficult time, right? The online era, I'm sure, didn't help, and also the team not being great, and maybe some of the personalities in the team didn't really lend themselves to this type of situation. But still, maybe that's the case, right, for Scump and OpTic this year, and part of it is probably because they just feel like they're more competitive, as in they have more chances to win. Therefore, when they lose, the frustration comes through. But of course, Scump was kind of making clear that look, results like this were inevitable eventually. They learned from a lot of their mistakes, and going into the Prime and of course Major 3, the Prime is honestly pretty perfectly timed here, right? Because the teams get a nice little warm-up, really, going into the Major 3 qualifiers once again. And speaking of the Prime Classic, let's talk about this then. So last night comes out from Liquid Paper, the First Blood podcast, with Slacked and I hold Shift, I believe. They were looking to kind of break down what these potential groups might be. So apparently, based on the seeding and some insider info, these might be what the pools look like. So of course, by no means guaranteed, but based on, guess, the current standings, these might be the groups. So, well, effectively the way it works is we believe there's going to be 4 pools of 4 teams, like in the CWL type days. 3 pro teams plus 1 amateur team, that one of the teams that qualified from the Minnesota Major 2 Open. So those 4 teams are StrikeX, that's Silly Squad, Toronto Ultra Academy EU, that's, you know, Vortex, and now known as Sivo, Harry and Co, Toronto Ultra Academy NA, Tactical Scrappy, you know the vibe, and then M7 Electrify, another European team, you know, Wee Man, Maple and the boys. So these might be the potential groups. FaZe, Surge, Ultra, that's pretty spicy already, right? Especially because Ultra seem to be keeping their same roster. If they can improve their hardpoint, they're still decent enough in the other game modes to make it happen. Of course, Surge versus FaZe is always a very spicy affair if that was going to be the case. Of course, we'll probably find out over the coming days what these groups actually look like. Interestingly, of course, they didn't decide to put, if this is the case, any of the Ultra Academies in Ultra's pool, which does make sense, right? Because there was a bit of a concern there. Like, you know, in a case like this, there's probably not the conflict of interest you maybe don't have to worry about too much, but there always is a bit of a concern if your Academy is playing your pro team, and also probably the pro team doesn't want to play the Academy, because if they lose, the implication is just put the entire Academy team in for the pro squad instead, which obviously a bit of a concern. So Silly Squad also in there seemingly. Texas, Mutineers, Rokkr, so I guess in theory OpTic have a slightly easier pool here, but I guess based on current seedings or standings or whatever, or results from Major 2, this might be applicable. Then you've got Ravens, LA Thieves and Subliners. I actually really like this pool because I think the matchups between these two teams are very exciting. Like, can the Ravens bounce back if this was the case? New York, of course, are kind of on the uptick. Los Angeles Thieves, can they do anything? If they want to win some series here, they're probably going to have to win the Game 5s or something, which is going to be maybe too difficult. Whether they can turn that around is another question. And then Boston Breach, LA Guerrillas and Paris Legion. So this is quite interesting to me, just because Paris, the worst kind of CDL pro team, you've got the Ultra Academy North America, the team that won the kind of challenger stuff. So that would be good to see. Like, Paris versus the best amateur team, like, we want to see that in the group, right? To see whether the best amateur team can take down the worst pro team, in theory, right? I'm sure there's going to be some upsets here, but the way that I believe these pools work is that only the top 2 teams of each pool get out, which feels like it's going to be very difficult for it to be any amateur team, right? You would have maybe hoped that, like, even if you come 4th or 3rd in the group, you go down to the losers bracket somewhere where you don't have to just beat 2 pro teams in the groups to qualify, because the likelihood is none of these amateur teams are going to beat 2 of the pro teams. They might beat 1, but actually getting out of these pools is going to be tough. So we don't know if these are actually going to be confirmed yet, but I thought there was certainly some interesting storylines here to look at already. This also, just speaking of the Boston Breach, they were in that group D, at least theoretically. They are doing this kind of hangout in a couple of days on Thursday, if you guys are unfamiliar with it. Doug Center Martin's going to be there at PAX East, so you've got to head along, of course. And just this nice little clip here to finish out from Shotzi when somehow this guy just knows who everyone is. But very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods this is a good video, and it's like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you much as always, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.
Bro, Shotzi, my teammate thought you were hacking last game, bro. I was like, what is this guy doing? What's this guy talking about?
Yeah, that's how good I am. Crazy, huh?
Bro.
I'm drilling. But watch, look at this. Move this. Center right there.
Oh, he's
Holy
playing.
Mackin'. Oh, way.